we had a vision originally of, we wanted to have 10,000 apartment units. And I don't know where we came up with that number. And I had no concept of how difficult that would really be, but we're a third of the way there.
Welcome. This is the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is where you'll learn strategies to help you achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host, Rod Khleif, has owned over 2,000 homes and apartments, and he brings experts in all aspects of real estate investment and management onto the show. Now, here's your host, Rod Khleif.
Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to get a ton of value from the guy we're talking to today. You're not going to want to miss this episode. His name is Paul Worcester or Worcester, depending on where you live. And Paul's family, he has a family-owned investment business, and they own over 3,000 units in the greater Kansas City area that are valued over $150 million. And frankly, what's astounding is they've accomplished this over 10 years, and it's astounding that it's a family-owned business as well. And I know I've said this to you guys before. If you want to be a success, you model someone that's a success. And, Paul and his family definitely fit that bill. So, Paul, I'm thrilled to have you on the show, buddy.
Thank you, Rod.
So what I like to do in a situation like this, because it's difficult for people to imagine owning a portfolio as large as yours, because a lot of my listeners are just getting started in the business. So I'd like, if you don't mind, you go back to 2006 and talk about how you got started in the business.
Yeah, we were, my two brothers and I were in college 2004 and 5, and we were finishing up college, and we decided to go into business. Our father had been speaking with us, and so he essentially put a second mortgage on his house, invested his life savings of $200,000 with us, and we went into business to buy rental property. And so Joel and I had just graduated college, and then Jesse left college about halfway through. We jumped in completely full-time at that time, and probably the most influential book or resource on why we kind of did what we did was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the concept of creating, passive income and earn dollars versus investment dollars. And then we had, in the summers part-time prior, so 2003, 4, 5, we had worked with a contractor, and we built, one home every summer, just part-time, and we had flipped those homes. And then the last one, we made great money. This was the peak of the market on the West Coast. We grew up in Eugene, Oregon. Okay. But the fourth one, it became 2006, and then 2007. It was right as we were starting our company, and it just sat on the market for about a year. And we finally sold it, and we lost about $5,000, and we were really fortunate to only lose that much. And that was, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then going through that experience and coming out and saying, we don't want to be in the flipping business. Other people are very successful at it, but for us, we wanted to be in a business where we bought a piece of property, and most every month there's a renter in there paying us money.
Absolutely. That's frankly why I put this podcast together, because I had a similar experience on a much larger scale in 2008. And, I had 800 houses here in Florida when the market crashed, and got my butt handed to me. And what was astounding was my multifamily portfolio. I had apartment buildings that they did just fine through the correction, but my single family, for a whole lot of reasons, didn't. So you got lucky and just had a small seminar. I call them seminars. You had a $5,000 seminar, but you learned from it. So continue, please. Tell us what happened after that.
Yeah, so we bought 16 units in Salem, Oregon in late 2006, and that was our first purchase of rental property. Almost immediately, the person we bought them from moved to Kansas City, and we sort of stayed in touch. And then almost immediately, so early 2007, I visited him, and I just kind of looked at the market here and compared it to our market in Oregon. And about September of 2007, my wife was 6 months pregnant with our first, and we had moved out here. And wow. that relationship, he was sort of a mentor, but it quickly went sideways, and so we went another route. And so we essentially didn't know anybody out here, and then my brother and his his wife came out, and then eventually all three of us and our families moved out here, and we started very, very small. We bought a duplex, a fourplex, another duplex, and we did all the management ourselves. We collected rent. We evicted people. We did some basic maintenance, and that went horribly. And so the first people we sort of hired were maintenance people. But from about 2008 through mid of 2009, we bought about 40 small properties, and we had been working with other people's money from the beginning because we just didn't have money. And we had $200,000.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Can you expand on other people's money? Let's dig into these 40 small properties. Did you just use hard equity? Did you bring in partners? How did you structure them?
We did kind of all of the above. I mean,
okay.
Our uncle invested $100,000. A close family friend invested $100,000. We early on brought a partner of ours who we'd known for 30 years, and he bought a very small piece of our actual company and invested some money. And so we bootstrapped. I mean, we lived, actually for many years, we lived very, very frugally, and we actually did not make a profit as a company for many years. But we look at that as, we learned the business. It was really an educational time. I mean, because we were buying and holding stuff, we didn't have a bunch of cash just from flips. And,
sure.
And I look back, and to this very day, we really don't sell or flip anything. And it forces you to operate it like a business. When you just have cash coming in, it can be a little, in my opinion, it can be a little bit deceptive, because you think, well, if this sale came in today, it'll come in tomorrow. And I've, as you saw, I've seen that happen with other people, where you don't get a sale come through, and then your business has to change. And so we just kind of bootstrapped. We talked to people very close to us that we knew, and these are not big purchases. We were buying duplexes for $50,000,
right,
and a house for $25,000, and very, very entry level, just starting out, learning the business at the most basic rents of rents were in the $400 to $500 to $600 kind of range,
right,
And so we did that, and we were kind of sitting on 40 properties, and during this time we kind of were talking, and we're like, this is going to be tough to scale. We had about around 120 to 140 units. I can't remember exactly in total of the 40. We had about half dozen houses, and so the number of units was maybe 140 from our 40 properties. And we kind of been talking. We're like, wow, this is going to be tough to scale. We're running all over town. We've got, we just, I think, had leased our first office space. It was like 100 square feet, with no windows, and so we had an office space, but
100
it was
square
tough
feet or 1,000 square feet.
Oh, no, 100. It was 100 square feet to start. It was like a 10 by 10 room with no windows, and had a big 6-inch or 8-inch sewer line, 100-year-old building going down the middle of the room. Yeah, it was interesting to look back on that, but we were frugal and didn't want to spend a lot of money at the onset. So
I hope you guys are taking note, because that is very valuable advice when you're getting started. So that's awesome. Please continue.
Yeah. So we began in 2009, kind of. We kept reading books. Number one, I asked anyone that I could to get lunch with us. We kind of learned who the bigger people in our submarket were that had multifamily, and I tried to meet with all of them, and that was good. We got a good basic overview of multifamily, and then we were wanting to go. We were wanting to go bigger multifamily properties, but it was very scary. I mean, we could kind of get comfortable with underwriting and looking at a 4-unit, but a 50 unit, it was a little bit scary, and we needed to raise more money. There was more zeros, and
right. And when was this? When was this, Paul?
Well, this was 2009 basically.
Okay.
We've been doing it for about a year, and we began looking seriously in 2009, and then we bought our first property of size. I call it of size. Everything we had was under about 12 units.
Right.
And then we bought a 60-unit property at the end of 2009. It was a bank-owned property. It's just a total mess. They had like I think it was 1.7 million of debt, and I'm sorry. They had about in the low ones of debt. A second went away, and we worked with the first lien holder, the bank, and they were being investigated, not investigated, but the FDIC was.
Oh, sure.
Was
no, all the banks were getting a lot of scrutiny then, and I mean, your timing was perfect because that's right after that was the height of the crash. So I mean, you got lucky in that regard for sure. So 2009, 60 unit bank owned. Were you able to negotiate financing with the bank?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I look back and I tell people now, I think we probably started our business essentially at almost perhaps the most perfect time, in the last 100 years to
Absolutely.
do,
no question.
United States real estate. So
Yeah,
we were very,
yeah.
It was a lot of luck and good fortune in the timing we started. If we were to start today, in the real estate market in general, the way the market is priced now, it would be very, very difficult for us to have done what we did. But
to get the scale,
I think,
I don't want to discourage anybody listening because there are opportunities, but to get to the scale that you guys got in the period of time that you did, I mean, 2009, you're talking 7 years, 3,000 units. I mean, that's extraordinary. So anyway, so this 60 unit, dissect that deal a little more. What did you end up ultimately paying? And
we paid, I can't remember exactly, but it was in the low 1 million, 1.1 or something like that. And a second, or maybe even a third went away, and we had offered like 700,000. I mean, we had offered a lower price, and we wanted to. That was really our top price. But the bank expressed in no uncertain terms, they were really, transparently desperate with us. They said we literally can't write $1 off of this first, or we're in trouble. And so what we ended up doing over a few months of negotiating is they gave us really just an outstanding loan. They fixed the loan at 4% interest only for 9 years.
Wow!
And then it was a fully amortizing 29-year loan. The 20 years after the first 9, it was like it went up to it was based upon a base rate, and it could go up to, I think, or something. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, it was some sort of index, and I don't know. I think the max was 5 or 6%, but it was a fully amortizing loan, and then they also lended us about $100,000 for rehab, and we had about 150 that we wanted to do, and so we did about 50. So we really got in with almost nothing down, and they financed us, and it turned out to be a great property for us. We've had it, we still own it today, and it was a big moment because once we got that property, we then had a little bit more credibility, and so when we went to other
brokers,
sellers,
lenders, sellers, all of that. Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll tell one more that right after this. Before you leave
this one, Paul, what's that property worth right now?
Well, we're refinancing it right now. The rates, unbeknownst to us and really anybody, I mean, the rates have actually stayed about the same. I mean, when we got the rate, it was below market. I think we're refinancing it today for 4% or under, and but it's probably worth. I will say this: we are looking at a loan in like the high ones, so that we're looking at debt it's, I think it's a 65-70% loan to value, and it's in the high ones. So it is
tripled in
certainly
value. Yeah, it's tripled in value based on what you paid for it.
Maybe doubled to a little more than doubled, something like that. And I don't know that I'd say it has doubled in value like it has appreciated so much. I mean, I would say more like the value was probably not all that different, but it just, at the moment, it was just really, really mismanaged. I mean, here's an example. I still remember to this day. I don't even understand how this is possible, but it is true. When we bought the property, the in-place average rent was $240 per unit. Okay. I still don't understand really how that's even possible. What they had they were an out-of-state bank. They had a third-party management company. It was really just a total mess. So almost overnight, I mean, literally, we bought the property, and we now rented every new unit at like the $450 to $500. So we essentially doubled the rent. So was it really worth, only $1 million at that time? No, I would say it's probably worth a lot more. We just improved the management operations kind of thing.
Are you still at that rent level, or have the rent's gone up now?
No, they've gone up. Not by, we're in the Midwest, so not by terribly high, percentages, but they're in the 550s, and I think we have some in the 6s, and so they've certainly gone up. But I would say the operations of the property was the big driver of how it's performed.
So before you go on to the next one, I just want to draw some attention to a couple of things you've said, which really it's like a perfect progression. You went from single family, then you went to duplexes, triplexes, and you ended up with 40 of those properties ultimately. Then you came to the realization that you couldn't get scale and decided you had to go for larger units. And that is, just such a fantastic history to show my listeners as to how things can progress. As your risk threshold increases, your abilities increase, your resume looks better. And so, it's just a great kind of an analogy or a chronicle of a great way to grow in this business. So tell us about the next one. You were going to talk about another unit.
Oh yeah, So the next property we bought it was like 2 or 3 months after we bought this one. So we already been kind of in negotiations at the time we were closing the 60 unit on a 96 unit property. And this is the 60 unit. We actually didn't use anyone else's money to my memory, because the bank, financed most of it. And I say other people's money, like another private investor is what I mean, equity. But the 96 unit I would put as more influential, or a big paradigm shift, and really opened up our eyes in a big way to how we could scale our business. And we had, until that time, we had worked with family friends that I would describe as highly trusting us. I mean, we had a reputation in our work ethic, but we did not have, a business acumen and that we could really put our resume on, because we just started, And so, but this actually happened in the very, very end of 2009. We closed on a 96 unit property, and we had been looking at it for a while. We had been trying to buy it, and this is I think a great lesson in just persistence and looking at. One of the mottos we live by is we want to solve a problem.
Right.
And so when there's a problem with a property, sometimes the owner or the controlling interest will say, no, we don't like your solution, or we don't like your offer, right? But if the problem remains, so if the problem persists that they have, we don't ever give up because the problem's still there. And so we will just keep checking in and just keep, and now if someone buys their property and solves their problem or comes up with some solution, then great, then it's solved. But people can tell you, well, we don't like your offer, but if you check back and they're still in the same problem, then there's no reason to ever stop in my experience. And so we've been talking with this lady. She's out of Florida. Okay, she has a property. Her family had roots in Kansas City, and they had some real estate. And the patriarch of the family had passed away, and so she had inherited these properties, and she had a number of children, about, I don't know, 5 or 10 children that were running things, but they had other lives and other businesses, and there was a 96 unit property right in our backyard, and we got a hold of her, and she didn't want to sell, and we'd offered her, I think, like in the 1.5 to 1.8 million range for her property.
Okay.
And didn't want to sell. And so we just kept staying in touch. And finally, one day, it was just a bizarre happening of events, but I think it points back to being mindful. I was very aware of this property. I mean, it was one of the ones that I was just, every month or two, I was just following up on it. I got an oil change at my car, and I pulled up the newspaper, and there was this ad in the paper, and rarely was there real estate, ads for sale that were what we were looking for. And it said 96 unit for sale, property for sale in St. Joseph, Missouri. St. Joseph is a submarket of Kansas City. That's right. Where we initially started. Now we're all over Kansas City, but it's a 96 unit, cash, first one to pay $1.4 million gets it. And I called him immediately, and it was the son of this woman, and he was, highly motivated. He was a successful businessman, actually, but did not have really any desire or competence in running this property. And so, long story short, we ended up buying it for exactly what they asked for. I didn't get a $1 discount. I tried, but right. I wasn't able to. And it was basically right at $15,000 a unit. And
I got to tell you, I mean, that's just astounding. I mean, that price is fantastic. So anyway, wow. And
yeah,
weren't you originally trying? You were originally trying to get 1.5 or get it for 1.5 to 1.8, or is that what she was asking before?
No, we actually would have paid that. I think she was asking over 2, if I recall.
Okay.
But he was their motivation changed, and
right.
When we bought the property, it was kind of a mess. They had 7, I believe they had about 15 vacant units, and half of not half of the units vacant, but 7 of the occupied units, I should say, were sex offenders, were registered sex offenders. They had a management team that was a husband and wife, very, very nice, but did not have any experience in managing property. They didn't screen, and so it was a mess of a property. But when we got it, it was it was in an area of town where the ground was worth quite a bit more than the property, than the buildings. It was next to Class A office space in town, and so it was just this diamond in the rough, and we ended up closing on that. And the point I was making at the very onset was we called a sophisticated investor, person that we knew from our hometown of Eugene, Oregon, and he'd been a private money lender, very successful in Eugene, Oregon for about 30 years. And we called him and we said, listen, we've got a deal. It's a home run deal. We sent him about a 10-page PDF property package. We said we need about $300,000 for equity. And, what do you say? And he flew out here. He said, I'm probably not going to do it. I've never done, this before, but I'm going to fly out. I'm just going to look at it. And he ended up doing the deal. And it was, and not only that, not only did he put the money, he put most of the money in, and then I think our father-in-law put in some of the other part of the money that we needed. We raised about $350,000 or so. And they both signed on the loan as well.
Okay, so guys, what that's called is being a sponsor. Okay, that's called being a sponsor, and that really, I'm sure, made all the difference in the world because they had the financial wherewithal to that you needed for the bank. Correct? Although you already had a 60 unit.
Yeah, but we're we're in our middle 20s.
Okay.
We have barely a couple of years of rental experience. We're not, our tax returns are certainly not super impressive.
Right.
We were really just getting started. Yeah. Our balance sheet was better, but our tax returns were not I mean, we were a startup company by no other. So
and you did what anybody that, those of you that are listening, that's what you have to do. You have to find someone that has that balance sheet, that that has the income and ideally the experience in the multifamily industry that'll give the bank the comfort level, and that's called a sponsor. And you sometimes have to give up a pretty big chunk, but once you've done that once or twice, then you don't have to do it anymore. Correct, Paul?
Yeah. Well, we've continued to do it, but the zeros have increased. So we do a lot of them ourselves, but we're doing like a $50 million. We're doing two $50 million deals right now, and so on those we still generally work with a sponsor to as a partner with ours. But it went really well, and so that gentleman brought his partner in, he brought his CPA in, and then he's literally referred about 20 of his longtime clients, investors that would lend. Yeah, that would lend their, he would broker loans, and they would earn a return on a private loan, and he's referred a bunch of them. He's been in about 12 or 13 of our deals now, and we've done really, really, really well for him, and he's done well for us, and it's been just a really good thing. And I think I look back to those early moments, and him saying yes, he is. We've since refinanced. By the way, we've refinanced that property, I think 2 or 3 times now. I think our debt on the property today is about $3 million, wow. and it's a pretty low loan to value. I mean, it's probably 60% loan to value, and so he's done very, very well. He long ago got all of his original investment back, and is still making a return on that property today. But I look back and that some of those early moments set the stage for what we do today. And so today we've now worked with about 80 different investors, and we've helped them place about $40 million in total in multifamily investments in Kansas City. And we've got about 3,000 units that we own. A piece of those, I want to clarify, we own a stake anywhere from 15% stake to about 50% stake in those. Well, a handful of those we do all ourselves, but with our investors we own a stake in those, and then we provide the ongoing management and the construction. We have about 120 employees in Kansas City that operate all of our properties, and we're in the last couple of years we've entered development and redevelopment as well as just buying existing properties. And actually, we're excited because next week, actually Monday, we move into our brand new offices. So we've moved offices now, I think 3 times, and our new offices are just really, really exciting, right in the heart of the central business district, in a really, really neat location. We have about 10,000 square feet is our corporate offices, so we're very excited.
Fantastic, yeah, that makes a big difference. That's awesome. Now let me. So 120 employees. So you self-manage, correct?
Yeah, we self-manage. We have never managed for anyone else, and that's by choice. We just want to have a good focus on what we do. We have a stake in everything we manage, and we self-manage everything that we own. Right. So we have a construction team of about 20 people that does capital improvement projects, and then we've got an investment team of about 4 or 5, and then we've got now a development and new construction team of a few people that we've got three projects going.
What kind of projects? What kind of projects? Multifamily or?
Oh yeah, everything we do is multifamily. So we have literally never invested in. I guess the exception would be our corporate offices and office building, but we don't look at that quite as an investment. It's really our home. So
you bought the office you're moving into. You bought that building.
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
Yes, we bought exciting. That. We bought the building, and it's about 42,000 square feet. and it's fully leased. We have about a fourth of the space.
Fantastic.
So
fantastic. I'd love for you to share. Sometimes I ask this question, and this would be interesting to hear from you. I'd love you to share a war story and a victory story. I mean, that last property you just told me about, you paid 1.4, and now it's probably worth, I think what you insinuated might be $4 or $5 million. That's certainly a victory story. But can you tell me about a war story when you really got bloodied, and the lesson you may have gotten from it?
Well, I'll tell one. I'm not going to use any names, but I'll tell the original. This was looking back. This was probably, my wife and I talk about it from time to time, and it was probably the greatest lesson we've ever learned. And it was basically hell going through it at the time, and
Sure.
And I had no context looking through it, but looking back now, it's probably the greatest lesson we ever learned. And so the gentleman that we moved to Kansas City, basically the connection
Right.
was our original mentor, right? So he was our original mentor, and Kiyosaki and about everyone else says get a mentor or have mentors, and I have mentors today, and I try to mentor others, and I think it's very, very important. But what is not always clarified and can be difficult to understand and learn is getting the right mentor and what to look for in a mentor. And I was somewhat blinded by the ethics and some of the choices that this person made, and looking at his real estate portfolio. And he was a millionaire and had done very well. And I looked past some things that my wife immediately caught and said, I don't trust this person. And so we ended up losing money. I would say he took some money from us, and he took some pride, and there was some manipulation there. And I was really pretty down for a while after going through that, and during going through that. It was without getting into a lot of details, it was just, he played mind games, and he had, like, for example, he asked me to buy a property for him, and we bought a property, and then he was going to buy it back from us, and there was some
sounds
stuff
shady.
going on there.
Sounds shady. Yeah, that sounds shady.
Exactly.
I want to draw attention.
I
want to draw attention to something you just said, because it's really, really important. And those of you listening, please hear this. Okay, his wife had a gut check about this guy, and it's so easy to ignore that when it happens, and you need to trust that intuition. Those of you that have listened to all my episodes know I did one just on intuition. And believe me, we've all had this happen to us. I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me when I've ignored my gut, my intuition, to my peril, like you did here, Paul. And it's not unusual for that to happen. Well, that's quite a story, and that is painful, especially when someone is in a mentorship role, and that happens from someone like that you look up to. That I can understand that. So, what's your greatest victory story? Let's move into the positive.
Well, I would say it's changed. It's changed over the years. But how I would answer that question. But today I would answer it this way. We've been through a lot the last 10 years, and originally we didn't start with I would say that the most purest of vision or goals to help people and change lives in certain way. We had a goal to help our family, and we conceptually understood the basics of passive income versus earned income, and that was really the impetus for us starting, and that's changed though. So our families are fine. We are millionaires now, and I would say our greatest success, and something that I think about every day and is become our passion, is developing our team members. So here's an example. I'll tell you a little microcosm. This is an example of what I'm really proud of today. We had a gentleman who's been with us for 3-4 years now. He's in his mid-20s, and he's been in the maintenance industry, in the apartment maintenance industry for years. And he came to us, and that's the job he applied for, and he got that job. and he worked for us for about a year or two as just a maintenance person, and he did a very good job, and he has HVAC experienced, and and then we had a acquisitions underwriting position that we were creating, someone that I was going to mentor and train and delegate and coach and free up some of my time to because I was underwriting and doing a lot. I've been responsible for all the properties we've acquired.
Right.
And so we created this scorecard, job description, and the expectations and everything, and we began, talking to people, and we advertised for it, and he applied for the job. And initially, he's a maintenance person. I knew of him, and I said, sure, well, let's meet. I didn't have high expectations. He's a maintenance person. I didn't expect that he would be able to grasp it. Well, he was impressive on the interview, and he very, very confident in his abilities. I said, well, let's give it a try. And it is nothing short of absolutely astonishing when I look back this three years approximately, how far he's come and grown. I literally trust him to underwrite, multi-million-dollar properties. He has learned development. He's learned. He interacts with some of our investors. He interacts with some of the largest real estate players in Kansas City. And I trust him, and he adds a lot of value. That he has some strengths where I have weaknesses, and I have some weaknesses and I have some strengths where he has weaknesses. And just seeing, if you looked at him 3 years ago and you said you saw where he's come today, I think most people would say that's probably some sort of a miracle to see where he's come. And so I am very proud of the development that he has done in our company, and that's there's a number of people that I can look at and have grown like that in our company. So I would say that's today is our greatest success.
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
want to develop people within our company.
No, that's awesome. That's a great example of a victory. And I've got probably 60 employees as well, and I will take passion and work ethic and integrity and drive over the actual mechanical knowledge any day. And like I do these driving force success tips every week. You may or may not know, but what I speak to is that 80% of your success in anything is your psychology, and only 20% is the mechanics. And that applies in this case. This kid had the right psychology. He wanted it, and he made it happen. And you taught him the mechanics. So that's a great example. So what one tip would you give somebody that wants to get into this business? What would you tell them? If I'm sure that you mentor people, like you said, but what's one golden nugget you would give an aspiring multifamily real estate investor?
I think I go back to, if we probably understood how difficult it would have been the first five plus years in our business, and we didn't even make a profit till after 5 years, some point after 5 years, and then it was like the hockey stick. It's really kind of gone exponentially better from there. But I look back, and we had a vision kind of from the very onset. I can still remember where I was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I've read it many times now. But and
so funny. I literally just posted a picture with Kiyosaki and myself today on my Instagram page. It's so funny the timing of this. But anyway, in fact, and there's some rumblings that he's going to be on the show too. But anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I've never met him. I've often wanted to meet him, and I will someday, hopefully. But just the idea that it's possible for our family, and now our company, and now the people in our company, we're setting up an employee ownership program. So literally, our company, our people are going to have a mechanism to benefit from this, which I'm so proud of. But awesome.
The idea that an individual can earn $1 without it it being based upon work I did that moment or that day or that week. It just, the dollars I earn today have nothing to do with the work I do today. And that's of course changed many over the years. And the idea that that's possible, and that in the United States of America, the greatest, country in the world, that's still possible today, and people do it all the time, and it is very, very, very difficult, but it's possible. And so I think having that original vision, something that when things go really, really difficult and they're hard, and you don't see the forest for the trees at certain days, and you get distracted, but then you can come back to your original vision. We had a vision originally of, we wanted to have 10,000 apartment units, and I don't know where we came up with that number. And I had no concept of how difficult that would really be, but we're a third of the way there.
Right,
and
because you had the vision in your head. You had the vision in your head, and you guys, you've heard me say that so many times. You've got to have that vision. You have to know what it is. You have to have a target, because when you do get bloody and you get knocked down and you get beat up, if you've got that target, you get back up, right, Paul? I mean, was it that you had, you knew what you wanted?
Yeah, exactly. And that if we didn't have a really core, clearly painted picture, a big, hairy, audacious goal,
right,
as Good to Great would put it.
BHAG.
Then BHAG. Then I think we would have probably been more prone to give up or look at something else at some point. And so I think just comprehending, like literally seeing where it would be at some point in the future. I think that was pretty important to us originally starting.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the key is knowing your outcome, knowing your goal, and it's never a straight line to that goal. But if you know what your outcome is, so when you get off course, like an airplane is off course 95% of the time, but it knows its outcome. It's a great analogy. And success is never a straight line. Well, listen, those of you that want to get a hold of Paul, his website is Worcester Investments. It'll be in the show notes. It's WORCESTER investments.com. And Paul, you've added incredible value today. I really want to thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate your valuable time, and I hope we can stay in touch. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. This is Rod Cleef wishing you incredible passion and massive success in your business and in your life.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and then take a moment to visit iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. For more resources to connect with us further, please visit our website at lifetimecashflowpodcast.com. Tune in next week for our next show.